Before we begin, I would like to invite our listeners to a presentation I will be giving for the American Society of Dowsers on Tuesday, October 19 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The title of the presentation is Attracting Synchronicities, Breaking the Cycle of Emotional Attachments. The presentation will be held on Zoom, and registration is $20 for people who are not members of the American Society of Dowsers, but if you decide to become a member, registration is free. The presentation will take about 45 minutes, followed by a Q&A where you will have the opportunity to ask me questions. I hope you can join me. And now for today's podcast. Welcome to High Vibes. I am your host, Bill G, with co-host Nina G. At High Vibes, we're looking into what it means to be a fourth dimensional being in an ever-changing world. We hope that by listening to this podcast, you can feel a greater sense of peace and connection as we collectively raise our energetic vibration to the next level. And now for today's podcast. Hello and welcome to
High Vibes.
I'm Bill G and I'm here with Nina. And today we're going to be focusing on a frequency upgrade. Frequency upgrades are done outside of time-space so that wherever you are and whoever you are and whenever you are listening to this upgrade will be exactly what you need to be listening to at this exact moment. For this, we turned to my various dowsing charts. And with that intention in mind, I asked High Self to identify the different charts that we needed to focus on for this frequency upgrade. And quite a few of them did come up. In particular, time temple chart number 1, which is the time temple charts is what Nina and I came up with and that we teach through our website. The Abraham-Hicks Emotional Scale was also brought up. And also a soul program through the spiritual response therapy charts. So the intention of all Akashic dowsing is not necessarily to fix anything. The intention is to bring into conscious awareness the things that you need to be thinking about, because these things, these ideas, are existing within the subconscious, or they're existing within the Akashic record, and we need to bring them into conscious awareness so that way your conscious mind can then work on it. And that is what we're going to do today. So we begin with the time temple chart number 1. Time temple chart number 1 is called the dominant life pattern chart. Its purpose is to provide you with a story of what you are living right now, the intention behind it or the motivation behind it. Who are you serving or who are serving as your antagonists within this particular scenario? And what role are you playing? What archetype are you playing? So what came up in the dominant life pattern chart was first, the highest form. The highest form is your motivation, or the highest form of your non-physical self, which is motivating the travel here. So the highest form in this reading was the Infinite Council. The Infinite Council is rather interesting because this is a group of beings who serve pretty much as observers, or the gardeners, if you will, of creation. They don't generally get involved, but they observe. So in this particular scenario, what we're looking at as is a soul who is kind of sitting back, kind of watching what's going on rather than getting directly involved. The soul family. Now this is very interesting because the sister came up. And this could be a physical sister, or this can be like a sibling type of sister. But since this is more of a global reading, I'm interpreting this as more of a feminine energy that is less of a maternal, but more of a peer. You know, a sister is more or less a peer or a sibling.
Or maybe like a really close friend or someone that you're tied to in some sort of way.
Right, exactly. The person that is being served here is the boss and or supervisor. And so a boss or supervisor is somebody who tells you what to do, shows you how to do it, and you are expected to give back to that person exactly what they have given you in the way and manner in which they trained you to do it.
So could you say this is like the controlling forces in our world right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Or just any controlling forces in whatever world you are in, because it could be in your personal world, and that can be mirrored down from the controlling forces in your environment.
Exactly, exactly. And so, and the dominant life pattern here is the knight, which is also particularly interesting because the knight is the soldier. And unlike a soldier who fights for glory or fights for honor and whatever, a knight is pretty much a mercenary. Basically, a knight is somebody who fights to whoever for whatever cause that pays him the most. And so we have a dominant life pattern here of somebody who is a gun for hire or sword for hire, serving a boss or supervisor who is telling them exactly what to do and how to do it. And then we have juxtaposed in here this feminine energy that wants to come in, this creative energy wanting to come in.
That could also be like the self, the real self.
Yes, it could.
Because we have our outer self that we try to conform to what the environment control wants us to be. And then we have our inner self, which is our true self, who we really are, which we don't necessarily work with or bring out too often. And that sister could be that feminine energy, that close friend that is really us on the inside.
It's coming up as red. And red in this particular scale means it is the highest, most creative life path.
So it's kind of like seize the day,
Mm-hmm.
seize the moment. There's something happening right now, something right now that's so imperative to look at.
And you have to be the warrior. You have to stop observing. You have to stop sitting back and watching. This is a time for action. And that's what this time temple is telling us, is that as things are ramping up in the world, as this energy, this conflict energy is rising up, your high self is saying, time to get off your butt, time to take a stand, be in your power. So this boss supervisor could be an antagonist character, could be someone you are rebelling against, and the sister character is what you need to bring in. Or it could be the other way around. The other charts that are revealing here are going to inform us better. Whose side are we on? Or who are we fighting for? Because right now, that is not giving us a very clear picture of that. So the next chart set we go to is the Abraham-Hicks Emotional Scale. And for those of you who are familiar with Abraham-Hicks, Abraham-Hicks is all about the law of attraction, but they also came out with a very interesting emotional scale that starts at the deepest, darkest depression and goes all the way up to joy and fulfillment and love. And it's all about attracting those energies towards you that is going to allow you to manifest your best, most possible life. The emotional element that was brought into this particular reading was anger. And anger is pretty low on that scale because it's a very low vibration. It's actually number 17 on a 26 level scale. So we're talking low energy here. So if we take this and put it into combination with the first reading here, we're seeing that perhaps this knight rising is not quite sure who they're fighting for, and that's generating anger, which is narrowing their vision and preventing them from seeing the bigger picture so they actually know who they should be fighting for.
Or maybe they do know who they're fighting for and they don't like the choices they've made.
And it's now time to switch sides. Well, the next reading is even more interesting. It's going to provide even more enlightenment here. Because here is, we're using the spiritual response therapy charts. And what came up was a soul program consisting of 9 different charts. And we're going to hit each one of these things because we have to examine them all in totality here.
And when looking at this and all of the other clearings that like you've done for me per se, this is a pretty big one.
Yes, it is.
So this is a complicated program.
It is a complicated program because most programs are generally between 3 and 5 charts. This one being a 9-chart program means this is, there's a lot of nuance to it.
This one took you a long time.
Yes. So the first one is from chart 27, which is called Learning is Fun. And the first is called We Are Caught Up in Misbeliefs. Again, it's going along with that anger. It's going along with the knight. And so I don't know what I'm supposed to be believing in here. I'm angry because I don't know. And I'm being fed lies by somebody. And so I need to fight. I want to fight. I want to do what's right. But I don't know what to believe because I'm caught up in misbeliefs.
Yeah, a lot of times, and we were actually talking about that this morning. I was talking about, I'm trying to listen very attentively to my own instructions that are coming from myself. And a lot of times I can't figure out what is that and what is maybe fear. Because maybe they're really close together. And it's been in the past where, you know, my fears actually benefited me. And that was really my instruction. But, you know, now I'm kind of seeing that I'm getting here and there caught up in my own misbeliefs. And that is causing fear itself. So, yeah, this can be a hard one to work through.
It could be. And then the next chart on that is from the Freedom is Free chart. All are vital to the whole. So here is your high self coming through and saying, yeah, you don't know which side you're supposed to be on, but you got to remember, there are no sides. We are all vital to the entirety of creation. That all that's fighting, all of this polarization energy is simply catalysts in order to elevate us to the next level. So even the people who are our so-called enemies are helping to elevate us to that higher level.
Yeah, even that terrible boss that's always telling you how horrible you are, they actually can push you. Like when they told me in school, I couldn't pass herbs right away. They said, you're never going to be a Chinese doctor. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to prove it to you then. So the more they told me that, the harder I fought for it. And then I passed really well.
Yeah, and they told you that to you as a first-year student.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, I'm a first-year student. Of course I'm not a Chinese doctor yet.
A lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn, right? But it pushes you.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of that tough love. Next, we have blocks to mental expression. And so again, that goes with I know this is all part of a big picture here. I know that there's misbeliefs and all of this is just causing a tremendous amount of confusion. And I want to express myself. I want to.
Please don't do that on Facebook anymore, people.
Yes.
These are your friends. You've said they're friends. They even say that they're friends on Facebook. Don't yell at your friends and tell them that what they're doing in their life is wrong. You love these people.
Yes.
But cut that out.
And that's a block to mental expression because what you want to say is, I love you. I care about you.
And I'm worried about this biz going down. But instead, everyone's just telling each other what to do. Please don't do that, folks.
Yes. And that's and again, that's part of that polarization energy that we're being told here within this reading. that you need to fight against. Next one, guarantee that everything is clear. So again, it's saying this, I'm confused. I don't know what to say. I'm saying the wrong things. And high self is coming in saying, chill out, breathe, clear it, clear your mind, listen to your heart. Understand that this is all part of a catalyst event to raise us all up to the higher levels. The next one may be a little confusing for some, but it's from the higher level blocks chart called the blocks from the council within the 2000 levels. The council, I believe, that we're referring to here is what Ra refers to as the Council of Saturn, which are a group of high level beings who operate off world in order to help guide humanity towards its next incarnation, between its next expression.
Could you think of that like the Federation of Planets, like in Star Trek?
Yes and no, because the Federation in Star Trek is run by third density beings. They're not exactly altruistic. I mean, some of them are. They're kind of like the United Nations, where, you know, on the surface they're really, really good, but, you know, they've got a Section 31. They've got all sorts of nefarious stuff going on in the military arm and whatever. The Council of Saturn doesn't have any of that stuff, because these are sixth density light beings who operate on extremely high level. Now, when we talk about blocks from the council within those 2000 levels, what we're talking about is the blocks within ourselves that prevent us from hearing the extremely good advice that they're giving us. And that good advice is extremely simple too. It's just love. Elevate yourself with love. Follow your joy. And so you've got these high level beings constantly broadcasting love, light, love, light. But then we get caught up in our misbeliefs. We forget that we're vital to the whole. We have our blocks of mental expression, and then it just all gets screwed up at that point. We end up getting blocked. We don't hear it anymore. And then the next one is the misuse of life meaning. And so we're not listening to the high self. We're not listening to the Council of Saturn or the Council.
And you're not listening to yourself. You've got issues that are nagging you in the back of your brain, but you're pushing through instead of solving these problems and actually expressing yourself in the way that you want to express yourself.
Right. And that then you end up misreading your life meaning. You end up working for the wrong people, or working for the wrong job, or doing things that are so third dimension, so fear focused that you lose the big picture. All you're doing is focusing on, all right, where's my next meal coming from? And then you lose what your mission is. And that leads to the next one, which is the negative potential of self-destruction. Once you have narrowed your focus, where I'm only going to concentrate on things that I'm afraid of, and I'm going to take up arms against those people I'm told are my enemies. Now you are not just destroying those enemies, you are destroying yourself, because we have to remember we are all vital to the whole.
And have you noticed that the thing that you fight against, you also subscribe to? And what that means is that you say, hey, I really hate this thing going on either in my life or in the world, so I'm going to fight against it. And that means that you believe it exists. And since we create our own reality, you reinforce the existence of that thing. That's not to be apathetic, but instead to understand what is going on, to see what is happening out there, to not fight against it, but let it be out there and just do something else.
Right. And the alternative is that for every person or every idea you fight to destroy, you're actually destroying yourself. Then
because you are part of it.
because you are part of it. We are all part of it. So next is from chart 3, levels of soul consciousness, radiant love. So here comes the message from the Council of Saturn, from all of the higher beings and the higher densities, saying just embrace love as not just this thing that you feel for another person, but something you can touch. It's love of not just yourself, but also of all of creation. That is radiant love, that it glows out of your heart center and encompasses you and the entire cosmos.
And you can do that by listening to yourself and what you actually want, and not doing things out of guilt or doing things because someone expected you to, but instead being honest and communicating with people about what your needs are.
And finally, we have fall from grace, which is what is going to happen if you do not listen, bring this into your consciousness. And again, this is not a threat from high self here. This is just telling you what the consequences are. If you do not elevate your love light connection, if you do not listen to your high self and embrace that love light, you are going to remain in third density.
Yeah, so like you don't spread your consciousness out further and are able to see more and higher up, but instead maybe even condense it down, kind of like a building crumbling down.
Mm-hmm.
But could it also mean, in that building idea, could it also mean that things can break apart and then start anew again?
That is also a possibility. But again, we are moving into this time of harvest. We're moving into this elevation process that happens every 25,000 years.
So stuff is happening anyway.
Stuff is happening anyway, but you still have a choice. As a third density being, you have that choice point. Am I going to choose service to self or service to others? That is your choice. You can choose either way. And if you choose service to self, I'm going to choose fear, then that is your choice, and you shall remain in third density until the next harvest, which is another 25,000 years into the future.
And that's not a terrible thing. Again, it's just where people are sometimes.
Right, exactly.
And you can move out of that.
I mean, Ra spoke about in the law of one Ra contact, he talked about that there was a few 25,000 year cycles where there was no harvest because the third density beings on the planet Earth simply weren't ready. There were maybe a half dozen or a few hundred that were ready, but that's not enough. We need to reach a critical mass in order for all of humanity to reach that next level. And some of us will make it, some of us will not. And so now that we've got a good idea here of what these programs are that we need to bring into our conscious awareness, now we pick up the pendulum and we ask high self to bring this whole thing into conscious awareness. So I want you to close your eyes if you can and imagine yourself glowing from your heart center and reaching out and embracing pure light, pure love. Also, I want you to be consciously aware that what is being asked of you in these difficult times is for you to not give in to fear, but instead to embrace your personal power. You are a powerful being because you are part of the whole of creation. You have the benefit of knowledge and wisdom of all of your lifetimes, of all of your expressions, all of those for whom you love, and all of those who love you. I'm going to bring that into that 4-second moment, and you're going to expand that out into the universe. And you're going to change and augment all of the karma that has placed you into this cone of fear. And it's going to blast forth. And in its place is nothing but the golden white light. Hold on to that thought. In the show notes, I'm going to include the entire reading on there, so that way you can go back and read them if you like. But it's important for you to understand that you are needed right now in this moment more than any other moment in all of history. It is a privilege and an honor for you to do this. If you are still feeling fearful, if you're still feeling confused, or you feel as if there are additional programs or additional karma that is preventing you from truly embracing your role, please go to our website, vitalbioenergetics.com/book
online,
and book a free 30-minute consultation, or simply book a session with me, and we will dig deeper into your Akashic record to bring greater understanding into your conscious awareness so that you can be the warrior that you were meant to be. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. For more information about Bill and Nina G, please visit our website at www.vitalbioenergetics.com. See you next time.